Greetings in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, Melech of Yasharal, Kahan forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. All esteem, honor, and glory unto our Lua, Yahuwah. This is Melech Shalama Trading, and I'm going to break down a trade I did on ES Futures, ES Mini Futures. So, on this 5-minute chart, this is my Wyckoff trade and view chart, right? So I'm gonna just point out a few things from some prior structure, right? And stuff I was looking at. So let me just move this out the way. All right. So here we had a buying climax and we had basically it turned into a reaccumulation, right? So basically we had a selling climax here because I'm looking at this as possible distribution, but then again it's a uptrend and it turned into a reaccumulation. So there's two different kind of labels happening here. So when I put this as the buying climax, that's the initial distribution, right? Or the peak of the uptrend that's coming up here. They slow down a little bit and reaccumulate, right? So this is basically the selling climax. Then we come up here, we create the automatic rally. Then we came back down here and we created the secondary stop. We have the uptrust here. We have the spike, or not the spike, the spring, right? So we break below selling climax, we create the spring, and we move into phase D and we start moving up, right? So we consolidate here a little bit, we jump across the creek, right? We pull back in. This is lower point of support, lowest point of support. Then we push above, back above the creek, right? Now this could also be a UTAD if it's a distribution. So I just label them as the both structures. I label them basically pointing out that it could be uptrust after distribution, or it could be a break above the creek, right? So came back here, lowest point of support, right? So we actually broke below this lowest point of support. I didn't really label that. There was just a little peak below right there. And then we moved into phase E of the uptrend, right? So let's see, let's do this. Right, so we basically started to move into phase E, breaking out around, let's say, right, I would say we started from around the 22nd of July and we started to move up, right? So we're marking up, we're in an uptrend. We had a little consolidation here and we moved up into this level here. So this is what I would consider now. This is a buying climax, right? So when we got to this level, buying climax, when we come down to roughly 64,925, that's the automatic reaction. We had a shallow test right here, basically just above the mid-range level of this movement. So basically just above the mid-range level, that's a test. It didn't get up to uptrust level above the buying climax. So that's the uptrust level. I mean, the test level right there, secondary test. We move down, we break below this level here, which is the automatic reaction. So we create a sign of weakness. We consolidate a little bit. And then we have this major move down here, which is breaking below the automatic rally, which is here, breaking below the sign of weakness. So this is a major sign of weakness. We come back down to the break above the creek level, found buyers, buyers took us up, created the uptrust, right? So when we created the uptrust, which is the high of 64, 68.50, we started to break down, right? So again, we're coming down here, this level, and breaking below the automatic reaction, right? So let me just open this up, right? So the automatic reaction is basically at 64. Let me see what the low of this candle is here. So it's 64.0875, right? So 6408.75, right? So it's around here, right there, right? So when we come to this level here, you see we have a breakdown. Let me just open this up again. You see we have a breakdown right there and a retest of 6408.75, right? We have another retest right there. So let me just throw on something real quick. These are the Camarilla levels, right? So on this day, which was the 31st of July, that was yesterday, right? We had this breakdown or we're marking down into the automatic reaction. It's around the Camarilla R3 level, which is that red line right there. So we break down to Camarilla S3, which is this green line, right? It's in line with the BUEC, the break above the creek, right? So let me throw on some floor pivots. This is the central pivot as well. So around this area here is the automatic reaction from a higher time frame, and we have some confluence with some central pivots, right? Or some pivot levels, right? So that's the central pivot. That's the blue line right there. Let me just open this up. Right, so that's the automatic reaction, 64,875 around this area right here. We break down, we retest this central pivot level, and we mark down again, right, into the close. So today now in the ETH, we open, we consolidate, we mark down, we push back up, we retest that break above the creek, right? Hold on. Just want to break down this trade on TradingView before we go to Bookmap, right? So we consolidate in the ETH. We break yesterday's low, right? That's yesterday's low right there. We push up to the break above the creek. We push back down. We break below yesterday's low. We hit Camarilla S3. We push through. Now we're getting back to this uptrust action, this automatic rally, this buying climax levels. We run into floor pivot S1, right? And Camarilla S4 right here, right? So that's Camarilla S4 right there, that green line. This is also value area low. Hold on. I mean the LPOS, the lowest point of support, right? So remember I showed you the lowest point of support on the higher time frame. That's when we came back into the structure. So let's open this up so you can see it. Right, so that was the lowest point of support. So we actually came back now into the accumulation structure, the reaccumulation structure I was pointing out, because we broke below all of these levels, the buying climax and the automatic rally. This is also value area high for the week, the previous week. So we're actually pushing back into previous week's value area as well, right? So you can see at this level here, lowest point of supply and value area high on the weekly. We break down, we hit Camarilla S4, we retest those levels. We are getting sellers pushing us below Camarilla S4. But this is the thing I was looking at here for a possible accumulation happening here in the ETH, right, before we opened. So while looking at this, I'm looking at this as a potential preliminary supply, and this being not preliminary supply, preliminary support, right? This being a possible selling climax. This could be a potential automatic rally back to S1, right? Floor pivot S1. And then as we open, this could create a spring that will take us back up here, right? So while I was observing price action, I'm noticing all this selling that started to happen here. So the selling pressure is quite significant on the open, looking for a potential spring where you would see volume come in on a heavy level while we break down this selling climax level, right? Heavy volume, but then we get a reversal, right? Or stopping pressure or stopping volume, right? So looking at all of this here, I'm not seeing any potential spring. It's just looking like it wants to trend down, right? So as you can see now, we're coming into the selling climax of the reaccumulation structure. So this phase E markdown is really just pushing us all the way through the prior reaccumulation, right? So with that said, looking for the potential spring here at the open, didn't see any spring, right? So now we're gonna go over to Bookmap and see what we were looking at, right, at the open. All right, so this is the open, right? So we're opening below Camarilla S4, right? Weekly Camarilla S6, monthly Camarilla S3, right? Which is supposed to be supportive if we have higher time frame players that want to buy, they want to buy around these monthly levels as well, right? So monthly Camarilla S3 at around 6307.75. We have daily floor pivot S2. We have overnight low here at 62.95. We have weekly floor pivot S1, right? And these are some previous VPOCs, previous week VPOCs and stuff. So let's just open this up a little bit, see what happened at the open. It's running kind of slow because I have OBS open as well, and Bookmap seems to take up a lot of memory while OBS is open as well. So, all right, so we have this bunch of liquidity here as we're pushing up into the open, right? We're coming back, we're retesting basically Camarilla S4. This white line here, that's London VWAP, right? So we come up here, we have buying exhaustion. You see that white line right there, that's the last price. Buyers are not taking it up. So that bubble stalls right there, we get sellers. We come back just at the open. We retest to try and push above this level. No buyers. The highest price right there is 63.11.25. We start getting sellers, right? Buyers come in a little bit. You can see there's no volume there on the buying really. We have sellers come back in again. You see that white line on top there? That's the last price. No buyers up there at the last price. No buyers up here at the last price. Sellers take over, aggressive selling, pushing us down. We hit liquidity here at 6,325. We get a little bit of absorption right there, pushes us back. You see the volume point of control, which is the light blue line. That's pushing down. So this is the highest volume for the session so far. We push up again. We come back to VWAP, which is the solid green line, right? You see buyers start to exhaust, aggressive sellers coming in on the purple bubbles. We start pushing down. We break below VPOC. We hit liquidity again, pushing down. Liquidity is not absorbing buyers anymore, right? I mean, the passive buyers are not absorbing the sellers anymore. We get a full run through of this liquidity. Aggressive sellers still in tow. We have a potential exhaustion right here of sellers, right? Small buy bubbles, no more sellers. We push back up. What do we get here? We get aggressive buyers not able to push price above, right? So we have exhaustion there again, right? Because there's no liquidity here, but the buyers aren't taking up price back up to this volume point of control. So this is showing aggressive selling within this buy bubble right here because they can't move price, right? We see heavy volume here and no transactions between this heavy volume area, right? So buyers are struggling. Aggressive sellers take control. They start pushing down. We're pushing into liquidity. Liquidity again is not absorbing the selling. passive buyers not absorbing the selling until we get to this level, and then we start consolidating, right? So when we come down to this level where we're consolidating, we came down to floor pivot S1, the weekly level, right? Which is at 62, 90, 75, right? So we start consolidating around this area. So I start thinking about maybe the potential spring would be around here, but I'm not seeing any significant volume that it's basically abs absorbing the sellers, excuse me. It's not showing any heavy volume that's absorbing the sellers. So let me just close this up a little bit. So I'm not seeing any real significant volume. So this is the highest volume here so far, right? This is the only volume that's kind of suggesting that there might be a spring, right? But I don't see any price action that's actually giving me that inclination that it's a spring, right? So we have heavy selling volume, I mean heavy buying volume here, right? If I saw this kind of volume or this kind of volume here at this level, I would consider this being a spring. But it's only coming up to this level here on the volume bars. It's not really that significant to me, right? So we push up here, we retest first lower deviation, that dashed green line. We have buying sweeps indicating the buying sweeps is the green, those green arrows right there in the circle, and you see the numbers next to it. So that means that buyers are sweeping price levels as they move up, right? So that's showing that there's no aggressive, not aggressive, but passive sell orders to absorb the buyers. So they're skipping levels and price, right? When it does that, it usually indicates there's a counter rotation coming. So this is a strategy that I'm working on as well. It's called the 360 fire strategy, where you have a downtrend. And let me use the arrows. You have a downtrend, you come back and you retest first lower deviation or VWAP, and you get a sell entry right here with these buying sweeps and stuff like that, and the high volume, no follow through. You start seeing the exhaustion right there. I could take a sell right there, but I didn't take that sell just in case this was the spring, right down at these levels and we're getting absorbed. I was waiting for it to at least come back to VWAP and this VPOC level to get a 365 entry, right? So sellers took control again, pushed us back down. VPOC migrates down to this level here at around what is it, 62.92, right? So as it migrates down to this level, it's in line with first lower deviation. We get this consolidation right here. Sellers take control, push us down just above this liquidity, push us back up to VPOC, right? Right. So we retest VPOC. We push down into this liquidity here again, right? So looking like we potentially getting absorbed, right? So looking for a 365 entry here because I'm still not seeing a real spring structure happening here. Now this could be a potential spring because we have a lot of selling volume right here, right? Aggressive sellers. We have passive buyers right there. This could have been the potential spring, but then we came back up and I'm seeing a potential entry here at the volume point of control. So we push above this first lower deviation. We have the buyers getting absorbed by liquidity right here on the offer. We have the exhaustion. Sellers taking control. So I took a short right there. Potential 365 entry, right? So got stopped out on this trade, right? Took a buy entry here, right? Which was a mistake, right? So I took, yes, was this? Let's see here. Let me just make sure because I know I took Hold on. Right, so this is the sell entry for the 360 fire stopped out here. And let's see here. Let me open this up a little more because I believe I took 2 attempts that got stopped out before. So let's see, let's open this up. Right, this was the first trade here, potential 365 entry short. I got stopped out here. Right, this is the next short right here. I didn't see it. Right, so this was the next attempt. Right, went short here and got stopped out here. Right, and this was the third attempt right here. Right, so went short here at 62.9125 on the retest of the VPOC level, 365 strategy, looking for that continuation in the downtrend, right? Because observing the what could be a potential accumulation, what I just showed you prior, is not looking like a spring level, right? It's not look those bottoms that came out there. Let me just go back. Let me just go back. Right. So just the structure of price action is not showing accumulation. It's basically showing downtrend continuation, right? The only thing I would say would look potentially like a spring would be this, right? And what it turned out to look like after a while is that this is looking like the selling climax. So we have the downtrend continuing, not really like a spring, but like a selling climax happening here. And this could be a potential automatic rally. So if that were to be the case, these shorts are justified because it lines up with 365 strategy, right? So when you get a push, if it's downtrending, the 365 strategy is basically retest of these levels, first lower deviation, or VWAP, right? So we retest VPOC here after we push above this first lower deviation, and it's not exact to the level, right? It's just where the structure, where you start looking for the structure to develop. That's VPOC right there, migrating down from this level. That's a potential automatic rally. You're looking for a distribution pattern happening here. You take the short for the continuation of the downtrend, right? So if this were a selling climax or a spike, I mean a spring, then if it does this at these upper levels, we could get continuation to the downside. But more likely it's a selling climax, right? So this could be the automatic rally, and then we take it down, right? So let me just break down the trade. Let's open this up. I hope I'm explaining that clear enough. So let's see here. Right, so this was the sell entry right here at 62.9125. Basically, you can see it's like a mini distribution, right? You will see that's the buying climax right there. You will see that's the automatic reaction. That's the test. And then we start breaking down sign of weakness right here. We break down the automatic reaction, sign of weakness, LPSY, push down, LPSY again, and then we start moving further down. So we see liquidity pulling off of the bid. My first target is hit here, right, at around 62. Anyway, I'll let me highlight it. Right, so first ordered partial profit was at 62.8325, right? So after 62.8325 is hit, and we move 6 points in profit, my trailing stop, which is here, right? You see my trailing stop right there. That was my stop. Starts moving down, break even, moves down, and now it's trailing as price is going down, right? So let's follow price action. right? So I get my first partial, right, just above second lower deviation, right? There's really no liquidity here. Liquidity pulled off the bid. We have a little liquidity here at 62.82. We push back up, shallow buying, exhaustion, basically absorption, whatever you want to call it. Sellers start taking over, aggressive selling volume. We push down into this liquidity on the bid here at 62.80. We get some consolidation, right? So I'm looking at price action, seeing if it's time to come out of the trade or not. But just letting my trailing stop play out. So my trailing stop comes down to this level here at 62.85, right? My stop is trailing by 6 points, and we retrace, right? Buyers taking it up. You see buy sweeps indicating counter rotation. We have buying exhaustion here, liquidity on the offer, right? Stepping in. We get aggressive sellers again. This iceberg gets absorbed, and this liquidity here transacts, right? Sellers take them on. The iceberg gets ran through. We have 83 stops coming out. All right, we push down, we push down. Let's see. Right, so this was another take profit right here at 62.79.25, right? So as we ran into that liquidity, that was a partial take profit right there. We broke down this liquidity and this iceberg right here. Got a take profit, a partial profit, retraced a little bit, and now we start pushing down again, right? So aggressive selling, pushing down into this liquidity right here. And I believe that was my last take profit right there. Let me open that up. Right, my take profit is right here, right? As soon as we hit this liquidity, my take profit is right there, but it's behind this level. Let me see if I could open it up a little more. Anyway, it's at this line right there. So just before this liquidity level at 62.75, my take profit is at 62.75.25, right? And that was basically the trade right there. It's 360 fire strategy. Oh, you see it right there. Now you see it. Hold on. I'm trying to point out the arrow right there. All right, that's it. 62.75.25 executed order, right? So just above that liquidity, that's where my last take profit was, right? Price ended up breaking down a little bit more, but that's how my set structure is on the Execution Pro on Bookmap. I have a set parameters for my take profit and my trailing stop and stuff like that. And just reading Mark Douglas's book, it's good to have like set levels where you take profit. So over time you could kind of calculate basically how your trade is playing out and the statistics of your trade. Like if um if the trailing stop of 6 points doesn't work, you would see over time, over journaling, over time, you would see that maybe I should use a 7 point trailing stop, or maybe I could use a tighter trailing stop. Or if you're not getting the take profits that you usually want, like my partials, if your partials are not really getting hit, you could probably tighten up your partials or make them a little closer and stuff like that. You could just evaluate the information you're getting if everything is in a set parameter, right? Plus, it gives me freedom to read order flow better when I know that everything is kind of set out in Execution Pro. So let me just show you this real quick. Right, so these are my Execution Pro settings. right? So I have a break even enabled after 24 ticks. And then my trailing trigger is after 32 ticks and it trails by 24 ticks, right? And that's basically it. And then my take profits are set in the multi brackets, right? So that's my trailing ticks, right? I mean, my take profits right there, 32, 48, and 64, right? My stop loss is 6 ticks, and that's it. So I just have everything set up. It just let the play run out. I mean, let the trade just play out. You know what I'm saying? So let everything just run kind of on automatic. So you can see we got more price action moving down here, right? But I don't need all of that. I just need my structure in my execution pro and my multi brackets to just work how I set them to work and just let the trades play out over time, right? All right, y'all. So let's see. Let's go to right. So this here could be a potential spring, right? So you see we have heavy liquidity. Let me just move this up. Right. So we have heavy volume here pushing down, right? We stop, we get buying volume pushing us back up. And now you can see that V kind of reversal as well, right? That's the kind of structure you're looking at. It's looking like a V reversal here. We come back up. Let me just show this, right? You came down here, pushed up, right? Getting support, getting support, and it's basically like a V reversal. So that's the kind of structure I was talking about where you're looking for the spring, right? So you can see here there's low selling volume, right? After this heavy selling volume right there. And that's where the sellers start getting exhausted. We have active bid, right? Supporting price. And then you see volume is marking up on the buy side. All right, y'all. So it's Melek Shalama Trading. That's my 360 fire strategy. And y'all trade safe and stay blessed. Shalom.